Hello and welcome back to like part 12, I think, of redrawing childhood characters. Today I bring you two monster-inspired girlies from this armada of characters. I really did intend to draw 4 characters for this video, but when I took a break from drawing to eat dinner, I found myself struggling to actually hold my chopsticks normally without experiencing any pain in my wrist. So I decided pushing through 2 additional character designs would not be worth a potentially longer term issue with my drawing hand, and I thank you for being understanding about that. But without any more delay, let's jump into today's speed draws. The 2 characters I'm featuring in today's video I picked specifically because they do sort of stand out in terms of character qualities and features. Since I've been organizing all my redraw characters into a big Excel sheet, I've also organized each character into a category of type, basically describing the general vibe of the character or what location on the map they connect to. The largest category, having a total of 14 unique characters, consists of characters who are named after celestial bodies, such as stars and comets. This category is followed by the random teenagers category, which is followed by pirates and martial artists, tying for 3rd place. Unsurprisingly to everyone, werewolves and vampires come next on that list. However, there are quite a few characters who are in a category all their own, and most of those are monster types. I clearly had a penchant for drawing vampires and werewolves, but I filled in the gaps with gorgons, centaurs, mummies, and the like. The first of these unique monster types that I am drawing is probably incredibly obvious at this point. She is a Naga or a Yuan-Ti, or however you want to flavor this. Whatever she is at least 50% snake, probably more. This character is actually not part of the Monster Genetic Engineering Lab Science section of my map. She is part of the map that was dedicated to books I read in middle school, whether that was by choice or via assigned reading from school. There are about a third of the characters from this book section that I actually plan on redrawing because most of them are identifiably main characters from books, and I personally feel like there isn't a good reason to redesign them since I can't. However, there are also a couple more conceptual characters in this lineup, most of them which can be described as being unbothered and beautiful women who live deep in the woods, who definitely just live peacefully and definitely have not ended the lives of dozens of men who were too curious for their own good. I'm no psychologist, but I feel like my 13-year-old self being particularly drawn in by characters and folklore being described as able to lure men to their deaths surely has something to unpack there. But since I don't want to unpack that, let's talk about this character who I named Sahara. This is sort of a unique case where I have very strong memories associated with this character, but I have no proof of who I actually intended her to be on paper. I cannot remember the short story that she was inspired from, and I am relatively certain that she didn't even have a name in the story. I do remember that she was described as a woman who had a great wide red mouth, and in my middle school mind I pictured this like a snake mouth. When drawing her originally, I clearly very intentionally made her mouth bigger than any of the other characters I have drawn, and on top of this, I rarely drew characters with open mouths or showing their teeth anyways. But besides that, I don't have any indication of her actually having the physical features of a snake. She has no forked tongue, she has no tail, there isn't even a little description box stating this. But I guess I've always known in my deep subconscious that she is a snake. I can't explain it beyond just vibes. So that definitely leads us to the biggest difference between the original drawing and the current redraw: the addition of the snake-like lower body. I could argue that that was how she looked all along, because between the dress and the cape in the original drawing, there is no way to tell for sure, but I do think this is one of my big stretches that I do in terms of character design, where I take the smallest shred of an idea that I have associated with one of my childhood characters and just kind of run with it. That being said, I do really like the decision to have gone in this direction. I am quite proud of how this drawing came out in the end. I have flowing fabric and gold coins, which are my comfort textures, and then I got to work with snakeskin textures and more fine curly hair, which added a lot of fun and interest while working on this. I would be lying if I said I wasn't thinking of ramen noodles when working on the hair, but ramen noodle tone indicator positive and affectionate it. I think it's a beautiful hair texture and color. I'm just hungry. Also, for taking such a strong leap out into the yeah, she's a snake territory, on a scale of how much my characters actually look like their original counterparts, she is much closer to the starting design and color palette than many of my characters have been lately. Speaking of staying true to an original design or color palette, I have received tons of great aesthetic and style suggestions to put into my randomizer for whenever I get around to redrawing the group of teenagers. Feel free to leave more style suggestions in the comments or just your regular, normal, kind comments. And I really do try to read and respond to all of them. There have been quite a few more comments coming in as we have suddenly launched into over 900 subscribers. And I'm always so afraid to talk about it beyond thanking everyone because I feel like if I say too much, the magic that has been recommending my videos to people will suddenly disappear. But I have been receiving so much support, and not just in comments, also in likes, in watch hours, and I'm eternally grateful to have such a nice growing community and so many kind supporters who are interested in my work. Oh, but here we are already at the end of the first of 2 speed draws for this video. I personally think this is one of the nicest character designs that I've worked on in quite a while, not just because of the different textures, but I also feel like there's a lot of depth to this drawing that my drawings don't usually get. I'm just going to be a little proud of myself for this one as a treat, but not for too long because we're quickly moving into the second character in our redrawing video. This is Janice with a lot of C's and E's and a Y because even as a child, I was not immune to fantasy spelling. I am also not immune to drawing on the wrong layer. Janice is a ghoul who unfortunately does not have a rich memory tied to her like Sahara does. However, she does have a very iconic bell-shaped red and gold dress and long blonde hair. And I think I really got lost in the design shapes for this one, even more than usual. With Sahara, I intentionally wanted to be a little more dynamic than usual, but with Janice, all I wanted was a big flowy dress and a fun expression. I was looking at a lot of fashion art at the time because I was feeling very uninspired in terms of clothing, and I think you will see that reflected in the way I construct the bodice of the dress around the character and then switch to the face and then the hair and then go back to the dress. It's a bit of back and forth, just trying to achieve something big and detailed that isn't too overwhelming. After drawing her wide-eyed expression, that was where I decided for sure that I was just going to not give her irises or pupils anymore. She has quite large eyes in the original drawing, which is a pretty common theme in much of my art even now, but I kind of wanted to carry that feature over because I felt like large glassy eyes is the best way to emphasize ghoulish features without straight up zombifying her original design. And not to be proud of myself again as a second smaller treat, but I was really happy with how the sketch of her face came out, and I decided I was going to do my best to not change that for anything. Although in hindsight, her face is very League of Legends Briar adjacent, which is not what I was intending, but I guess it suits the vibe, so I can't be too mad about it. On the subject of only having 2 characters in this video, I really am trying not to feel bad about it, especially considering that it was in the interest of injury prevention. But just to be straightforward and honest with all of you, I do have a growing pressure to make every video more grand than the last. And I'm sure that's probably a very common feeling that every content creator has had, and I know that not all of my videos are going to be bangers. That would just be an unreasonable expectation. And a lot of you followed me way back when I only did 1 character per week, and you've stuck around since then, and I really appreciate it. But that's not the only reason I've been pushing to get more than 1 character out per week. I've also been going through my stuff, doing a little cleaning, and well, I found more characters. I found a totally separate map with 15 additional characters. This new map that I found is actually older than the giant paper map that I've been drawing characters from so far, and finding that map hit me with like a huge wave of nostalgia, and well, that's 15 more characters to add to the list. I don't want to spoil how these characters look just yet, but I will say I am very excited to redraw a lot of them, and adding them to the cast of characters brings us to a total of 113 characters, 89 of which I have not drawn yet. 1 character per video makes that well over a year's worth of content, and I don't even post redraws every week. Many of you have seen how quickly my channel shifts during the summer when Art Fight and Ren Fair season roll around. So that's just to say, don't don't worry, these redraws, they're not going anywhere for a while yet. As you can see in this drawing, I've kept the gold and red color scheme going on, but added black to the design as well. I've shortened her skirt a bit and gave her puff sleeves instead of the tight long sleeves, but I also gave her gloves and boots, so she has about the same amount of skin coverage that she had in her original design. I was considering giving her some sort of discoloration indicating necrotic tissue damage, but I really think back in ye old day of my childhood, the only reason she was even considered a ghoul was because she had the ability to walk through walls, which is more like a ghost, I guess, but much like the unnaturally gendered concepts of witches and wizards, ghouls and ghosts somehow also got gendered in my brain, and I'm not sure how, and I'm not sure why. But with a little multiply and a little color dodge, we have approached the end of our second drawing, and of Janice, who is living her best life, or her best life, I suppose. Anyways, there are our two characters who are both, I guess, just haunting and independent blonde women, and I love that for them. I don't usually like branching into such high contrast designs, but I think because I picked such limited color palettes, I felt more forced to emphasize that contrast, which honestly, I kind of like. I think it's going to have a little bit of an impact on my art for a while now. We'll just have to see what happens. But as an ending note, again, I'm completely blown away by how many new supporters I've reached in the last month. There are less than 100 spaces left for people to say that they were here before 1,000. I have never had this many people supporting me on any sort of social media platform ever. I might have to do that mushroom milestone video way sooner than I thought, but who knows? Not me.